Hey everyone, this is Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment. We have returned for the round of 32 in our journey to find the best album of the 1970s. In honor of March Madness, we decided to put together this NCAA style tournament bracket of 64 of the best albums of the 1970s. And it's our job to truly decide who was the champion of this particular decade. Joining me again this week is the gang, Rich Strickler, who was devastated to hear that Joni's exit last week from our little tournament. And I'm also joined by Randy Nelson, who said he wasn't really all that upset. And joining us also is Doc, who asked the important question in this situation: is Joni Mitchell still alive? And then my buddy Sam St. John, who said just barely. So I'll be putting YouTube links down below, except for Doc, who really starts. You need to get with the program, Doc. You need to get something.
Yeah, maybe I do, man. Maybe I do.
So this is how it breaks down. We're currently in the round of 32. In this video, we're going to be covering all the brackets, not cutting it in half because we have half as much to do. So I'll introduce each matchup, give a little slight plug for each one, let everyone chime in on the brief matchup with any notes that they may have. And then the five of us will simply vote. We're going to rotate who gets to vote last in each situation. That gives a little bit of extra power and a little bit of extra blame, I found out after I voted against Joni last week. And I encourage anyone who voted in the minority to chime in with their last minute thoughts on these album choices. I also encourage everybody who's watching the videos to please leave your results, who you would have voted for in this situation. Like, sub, comment, and please check out the channels of these other fellas here. They do some great content as well. So remember, this is just for fun. And so don't plot our death or send us hate mail, and shade's fine. And, and if you'd like to donate to us, just log on to docprefersalpinebeer.com and be sure to give generously. So, gentlemen, do you have anything to add before we get started?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this round. There, these are all one-time winners, and half the field's going to go home tonight. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have to think as hard on this one. There was only one that was even a remote close, call for me, but it wasn't really all that close. But versus the round of 64, I had two or three where it was a coin flip a lot of times. This one was, I knew my number one every time.
Wow.
Wow. Doc?
This one I would say Sam's got a good point there. It's maybe a little easier to filter out what is your personal one in each battle as you go. But I also think it's going to be, maybe as we narrow it down, these numbers aren't going to be 5-0 and 4-1s. They're going to be 3-2s a few more times as we get closer here.
Yeah. What do you think, Randy?
I think with less matchups, it was a little more difficult for me, but it's going to be interesting. See who advances.
Yep.
All right, so let's just jump right into it. We're going to start off in the West bracket with it's hosting the number one overall seed, Dark Side of the Moon, who steamrolled over Bad Company last week and is matched up against the boys from El Cerrito, the number 9 seed CCR in their powerhouse album Cosmos Factory, who just started past the Ramones. So, Rich, you get to chime in first on this one.
Yeah, this is really a no-brainer, although I love CCR and I love the Hit Factory, quote unquote, where their albums contained at least 3 or 4 singles each and B-sides and everything else. But Dark Side of the Moon is a landmark album, not only for me, but for the world. I have to vote for it as the winner here. Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd.
Okay, perfect. Sam?
Yeah, I voted for the Ramones on the last round to beat out Cosmos. Again, I love the songs on Cosmos are fantastic. I love it. But in terms of just an album flow,
right.
Again, many of us believe it could be considered the greatest album. It's not my favorite album of all time, but it could be the best produced, the best flowing. It's like everything just fits perfectly. The playing is fantastic from the 4 members of Pink Floyd, so I've got to go with Dark Side.
Yeah, I'm next here, so I'm gonna agree with both you guys. I mean, Dark Side here, to me, I just went ahead and penciled it in almost immediately when I sat down with this list here. Nothing against Cosmos Factory. I own all of CCR's albums. I love this album. Rich and I have talked about this album before on videos, so it is great, but it's hard to beat Dark Side of the Moon. So I'm going to go ahead and give it that third vote. So, Doc?
Well, it's already through. There we go.
Yeah.
So yes, it's already happened. So, but yeah. Cosmos is a great album. You guys are right. It kind of hit factory and everything else. Dark Side's just a different neighborhood, man. I don't know what to say.
Right.
Yeah, this was this was written down pretty early, man. So Dark Side is a masterpiece, man.
Randy, you agree with everybody?
Well, I was thinking of Steph Curry with Davidson getting ready to hit that last shot, or Steve Nash with Santa Clara, but apparently they missed. And I actually took Cosmos because I just love all the tunes on there. And Dark Side is an album to be taken as a whole, but for me, I would just rather listen to Cosmos Factor than I would Dark Side. That's just me. But it is great produced and it's a great album.
Okay. All right. Hey, gotta vote. You gotta vote your conscience on this stuff. So,
Yep.
All right. So Dark Side moves on. We'll continue down the list. Back again this time is the Jazz Fusion Rock Classic from Steely Dan, Aja, with the number 4 seed, and hands full a little bit more this week as it goes up against the mega hit Tapestry at the number 5 seed from our girl Carole King. Randy, you get to go first on this one. How do you feel?
Well, I like both of these albums. It's a great singer-songwriter, and Carole King. This is her best album, but I'm going with the better produced, and it just has more for me to hear Asia, the Steely Dan album, and I'm just gonna have to go with that, especially Larry Carlton's guitar playing on that one.
Oh, all right. So Rich, your turn.
This was a hard one for me. This is almost a toss-up, but I'm going with the 16-time platinum Tapestry in a squeaker. I just think it came along at the right time for not only singer-songwriters, but female singer-songwriters. And it stands up to this day. And I love Asia by Steely Dan. It's my favorite album of theirs, but it's a squeaker. This is like a 1-point victory at the buzzer. So I'm going to go with Tapestry.
All right. A little bit of splitsies here. Sam, what do you say?
Well, my feelings toward Steely Dan were made known last week. For those that remember, again, I like Steely Dan, but they're not my cup of tea. It's not what I would reach for. Like I said, I have a greatest hits, and I don't know the last time I listened to it. But Tapestry for me, I mean, it fits my wheelhouse. I love just about every song on that album. Is a mainstay, and like Rich said, it was kind of a landmark turning point for these people coming out of the 60s that were writing the songs for the other artists, the Neil Diamonds, the Carole Kings, and even James Taylor. I mean, Nico was singing his stuff in the 60s. So yeah, Tapestry for me, again, no brainer.
Okay. All right. So down to me, I'm going to go with my gut here too. I think maybe Rich, you'll have yourself to blame a little bit here for getting me into Steely Dan. I've listened to Tapestry, more times of late when we did our series for whether it was a good album or not, and I definitely like it a lot more than I did maybe 7 years ago. But it's still not as good as Aja in my mind. I think Aja is just too well produced, and I love the musicianship. So I'm going to go with Steely here to kind of tie us up and put Doc on the spot. So
hot seat, Doc, hot seat.
Yeah, look at that, eh? So is it going to be Steely Dan, or is it going to be, Miss King, right? So, look, they're both good albums, man. They're both great albums, if you want the truth. But to me, this was pretty easy, if you want the truth. I'm going Tapestry. This is outside it taking out, Highway to Hell, which should have gone a lot further. Maybe that's a little bit of a bias picked in one sense. So it must be one of the best albums of the 70s, obviously. So, but aside from that, it is a masterpiece, man. And I think it's a flow through singer-songwriter that Rich touched on, especially at this time, and especially for women too. It's got a lot of great tracks in there, man. This is a 9+ album kind of thing in the scheme of things when you get right down to it. So yeah, it's Tapestry, man.
Okay. All right. Tapestry moves on to the field of 16. So
Wow.
We're going to go to the bottom part of this bracket, and it's going to be Marvin Gaye holding on to that number 3 seed with his conceptual What's Going On as it attempts to go against a Southern rock masterpiece pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd, as it upset the number 6 seed Paranoid last week and as a number 11 seed. So, Doc, you get to speak first on this one.
Look at that, man. Sometimes I think I just get the worst brackets. Sometimes I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But Yeah, we talked about Marvin Gaye. It is a masterpiece and everything else. And, you know, I have a lot of love for pronounced Leonard Skinner here too, man, because I think this is a booming debut. And I think the way that the pronounced starts, man, I think the first 5 songs on that just kick seriously, man. And it ends with Freebird. What's going on is a masterpiece. What's going on is everything else. But if I'm going to be honest with myself, man, I'm putting on pronounced Leonard Skinner before I put on what's going on. So I am picking Leonard Skinner in this round.
Wow.
Okay. Randy, what do you think?
Well, I think I do think what's going on is a masterpiece, and it was a landmark soul album because it was because it was looking at all the different things going on at the time, you know, with the ecology and prejudice and all these kind of things. And I think what's going on, the title track, is one of the best songs ever. I'm going to have to go with Marvin Gaye here.
Okay. All right. So, Rich, what do you think then?
Yeah, this is tough because I'm a Leonard Skinner fan, especially their early albums here with Ronnie Van Zant on lead vocals up until the plane crash. Fantastic every time out. But what's going on is a masterpiece. We've just been said, 3-4 times already, and it's true. And it's one you can listen to straight through. You know, Randy mentioned the ecology and the poverty and the Vietnam War and the racism and all the, you know, the stuff going on in the streets. And it's beautifully written, performed, produced, sung. What's going on gets my vote.
Okay. All right, Sam, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, but last week Skinner beat out Sabbath, which again, I surprised several people and picked Sabbath on that. Just because Leonard Skinner to me, it's I hear it all the time. It's around here all the time. And I remember the first time I heard What's Going On, being blown away by the fact that an album could flow like that. When I was first really getting into music in my early, you know, high school years, late middle school, 8th grade. And hearing this album and thinking like, wow, I didn't think an album could do that. Mm-hmm. So again, for me, the topic is great. You know, Marvin Gaye's singing is fantastic because I mean, I liked his early stuff with Tammy. But yeah, I've got to go with Marvin on this one. Okay. Easy.
All right. Well, I'm gonna, even though it's already got the 3 votes, I'm gonna only say this. I'm gonna vote for Marvin too, and mostly for this reason. I just recently watched Lex Friedman interview Rick Rubin, had him on his podcast, and they were talking about this particular album, and they were listening to the beginning of it, and they're like, Marvin Gaye's voice is so good that it's almost an instrument unto itself. Mm-hmm. And they were playing the Detroit mix, which was just even better. It felt a little bit more atmospheric and a little bit more open, and it was just fantastic. So I would have, even if this was close and I had to be the deciding vote, I would definitely be going with Marvin Gaye's What's Going On here. So it's going to advance to the next round, 4-1. So we'll move down to the bottom here of the West, and we've got that blues psychedelic rockin' LA Woman, the number 7 seed that's being challenged by the fan favorite Van Morrison and his classic album Moondance, who's a solid number 2 seed. I get to go first here, and this is the one that is just going to break my heart to vote out LA Woman. As much as I love this album, my favorite album by The Doors, but Moondance is just too good. The album's just way too good. He sounds way, just phenomenal on the album, and it's just got this nice texture and feel to it, to where you can just relax and listen to this album and just let things soak in. And that's what I love the most about it. So I'm gonna start us off and say Moondance. So Doc.
Yeah, it's this was one of the tougher ones, man. This is really one. We can touch on anything you want to touch on about the albums that are going up against each other. Some albums put you in a mood, and some albums you have to be a mood in to listen to, is what I would say on some of these things, right? So once you get sucked in, you're off, right? I can see where you're going with What's Going On, but I prefer to hear Leonard Skinner that day, and it's a lot easier for me to get into that if I take it at that level. LA Woman is like, all right, I'm going to go listen to it. And Moondance is, you put it on, and you're in the mood, you get sucked in. And it's a lot easier to get sucked into Moondance than it is to LA Woman for me, man. So I have to go with Moondance here as well.
Okay. Randy?
Well, it's not probably really fair since a lot of people know that Van Morrison's my favorite artist. And I do love LA Woman. I love that album. But even though Van experimented more on other albums, this is kind of like his Rumours, where every song could have been played on the radio, although it wasn't like Rumours. But every song on there flows and is really catchy. And so I'm going with Moondance, of course.
There we go.
All right, Rich.
Same here. I can't go against Moondance. I like all the flavors of that song, of that album. It's got R&B. It's got like jazz stuff in there and some Irish folk. It's very mellow at times. It's just my kind of album. Very accessible. Nothing too outside the box. So I'm going with it. Moondance over LA Woman. I like LA Woman, Joe.
Right.
But
Sam?
not this time. Bad matchup.
Yeah, this will be our first sweep of the night. Yeah, I mean, Moondance, that's kind of the album that, if somebody asks what Van Morrison album should I listen to, because he has, 40 plus now, Randy?
Yes.
Now that he's putting out like 2 or 3 a year, even in his late 70s. Yeah, I mean, like I've said last week, the deeper cuts like Come Running and Glad Tidings, I love those as much as I love Into the Mystic and It Stoned Me. Yeah, I mean, for a while, this was one of those albums that I love to listen to in the fall, but now it's become one of those albums I listen to it often. Again, not my favorite Van Morrison album, but probably his most perfect, I would say. So Moondance, easy.
Moondance with the sweep. All right, so that just takes care of the West bracket. We can slide on down to the Midwest and kind of tackle this one. This is where the number 1 seeded Who's Next down here cruised through the first round, but now it has to do battle with that rock folk classic Deja Vu. By the way, welcome back to Neil on Spotify as they hold on to that number 8 seed as the 8 seed last week, rather, against ELO, which was a tough matchup for them. So let's see, Sam, you speak first on this one.
Yeah, it looks like this is the first pairing where it's the first 2 where I'll pick both of these albums last round. So again, not a hard decision for me, but just an interesting kind of little tidbit. But I love both of them, a lot. But I think because I'm not a huge David Crosby guy, and Neil, I have to be in the right mood for, I easily circled Who's Next on this for me, because again, it's one of those albums that's pretty close to perfect. Right down to the playing, to the topics, even though it was a broken concept album. It's hard to beat Won't Get Fooled Again, Bob O'Reilly, and Behind Blue Eyes, and then even Going Mobile and Bargain. That stuff is just as good. So again, another easy pick for me.
Yeah, it slides down to me here too, and I got to echo everything that Sam said. This was an easy pick for me. I don't mind Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, but I'm not enamored with any of their albums. I can listen to them, and I appreciate them for what they are. But Who's Next is just all killer, no filler in my maybe like one song that's probably not great, but it's still a very good song. So I'm taking Who's Next as well. So Doc.
Easy peasy for me, man. I don't know what to tell you on this one. This was this next. Who's? That's where we're going.
All right.
It's
oh no, Doc, you need to say something? Yeah.
No, that's like Sam rang off. Loving for Keeping. Song is over. They're getting into it's all there. There's no filler, man. You're right.
All right, Randy.
Yeah, let me say this first. My Wife is a great song.
There you go. Thanks for picking this one for me, Randy.
So that whole album is perfect as far as I'm concerned, and Deja Vu didn't really have a chance. Plus, The Who's my favorite group, so that's that factors in as well.
That's a little bit of a factor. Rich,
Yeah.
is it going to be a sweep?
It's a sweep. Who's Next is just too much of a monster to get beaten out here by Deja Vu. It's not going to happen. I like Deja Vu too, but it's in a separate league. Who's Next? Arguably the greatest rock album of the 70s. Debatable. It's in the top 5 for sure, and it gets my vote, no question.
Okay. All right, we'll move down to the next matchup, which is going to, it has someone who carried over with maybe one of the biggest upsets there was, last week. Here at the number 4 seed, we have Neil yet again, but him this time with a solo offering of Harvest as he seeks to regain some lost revenue, going up against the great pop duo of Bernie Taupin and Elton John, and that number 12 seeded Madman Across the Water, which upset Exile on Main Street last week, which was sure to be the topic of many a conversation. So, Rich, you get to speak first on this one.
Well, again, both albums, all these albums are fantastic, so it's hard to pick and choose. But you got to make a choice. And to me, it's Elton John's "Madman Across the Water." I think it's grown, and my love of it has grown through the years. I liked it when it first came out, but I like it even more now. That 1-2 punch of Tiny Dancer and Levon, and then Madman to close out side one. The deeper cuts on side two, including Holiday Inn and Indian Sunset, are two of my favorites on that side. So I'm going to go with Madman Across the Water. Harvest has some good tunes, but not as many.
Okay, Sam.
Yeah, I'm going to follow Rich with the upset. It's my favorite Elton album. I love the deep cuts. I love Raise Your Face. I love all the nasties. Yeah, Indian Sunset and Madman, two of the best epic songs that Elton never put to paper. And obviously you got to get Bernie credit for all the lyrics and just, the beautiful music on, Leave on the opening piano chord. It's to me it's close to a 10 out of 10 album for me. I think one day it probably will land in my top 10 favorite albums once I give it more time. But yeah, it's hard for me not to pick that. Like Rich said, Harvest has some good tracks. That's the Neil Young that I like, that style. The songwriter Neil Young, not the grungy or kind of crazy horse Neil Young. But yeah, Madman, it was, again, an easy pick to pick the 12 seed.
All right, so I'm going to tell you that this Cinderella story is going to continue because I'm going to go with my gut and how I would feel like if I had to pick an album to listen to right now between the two, I would slap on Madman Across the Water first. So I'm going to go ahead and move Madman into the Sweet 16 so that the story of Cinderella continues. But Doc, you want to weigh in on this a little bit?
No, you'd have 4 now, so it would be Madman for me as well. Rich touched on it. That 1-2 punch out of the gate. I just love Levon, man. I'm a big fan of that. Yeah, that's and you're right. I'd say, Sam, this is probably peak Neil in some senses too. So listen, it's a great album. Harvest is a great album, man. That's a pretty good, easy listen. You can put it on any time. Lots of good. Oh man, it's fantastic. And Needle and Damage Done. There's lots of good stuff in there. Just Madman's that much better for me, man. That's all I can say. So yeah, I wrote that one down pretty easy.
Okay, Randy.
Let's see. This is a tough one, but I'm picking Exile. Oh, wait a minute. No, even though one of my favorite Neil Young album is already gone, the show I don't hold any grudges, as far as you know. That I'm gonna pick Madman because it is my favorite Elton John album, and although I wouldn't have picked it against Exile, I will pick it against Harvest.
What was that about grudges?
Madman swept. That's
nice job, Madman.
That's crazy. Woo! All right, let's move down to the bottom half of the Midwest here with a banger of a matchup as the Eagles seek to stay in the running with their number 3 seeded Hotel California. But to do so, they will have to order out and steer clear of having breakfast in America from Supertramp, who also upset the number 6 seeded Slow Hand last week. Randy, you get the first word on this particular one.
Well, Hotel California is actually the first Eagles album that I ever bought, even though I knew their other songs. And it would have been a tougher matchup for me if it was Crime of the Century, because that's probably my favorite Supertramp album. But against Breakfast, I'm going to have to go with Hotel California.
Okay. Rich?
Yeah, you know where I'm going. Hotel California is one of my favorite albums. I know the Eagles take a lot of crap for being money grabbers, and Henley's a dick, whatever you want to call him. But I still like their music. I like the Henley Fry songwriting. I like Joe Walsh adding to the band. Don Felder. It's just they were firing on cylinders here. And I saw them on this tour. So sentimentally, I'm going with Hotel California.
All right. Sam?
Yeah, again, no brainer for me too. Hotel California. I love. I mean, Rich and I talked about this, and I gained a new appreciation for the Randy Meisner tune.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a great vocal by him. I mean, it's got other great tunes on it, but that one stuck out so much for me and really put the album a little bit higher than I originally thought it was in my love of the Eagles. I mean, even though like I've said, I think the title track's played out, it's still a pretty perfect song. If I remove any kind of grudge or bias toward it, it's great songwriting, and yeah, again, I like Supertramp. Again, they were one of those early bands I had a greatest hits of growing up, but Hotel California takes the cake.
Yeah, if we were judging best album cover, I'd get the slight edge to Supertramp. But unfortunately, we're judging the actual vinyl on the inside, so I'm going to go with Hotel California as well. It's actually my second favorite Eagles album. I like the Long Run better, but I didn't put the Long Run on this list because it just didn't appear on enough lists to warrant being seated in the top 64. But Hotel's definitely the stronger of the two right here. So, what do you think, Doc?
Yeah, this is and thank God I'm not the deciding vote. That's what I'll say. I love both albums. I'm a big Supertramp guy too, and I'm a big Eagles guy. So, especially at this time, man, the '70s. This is my favorite time. But I'm picking Hotel as much as I love Breakfast. It's I just think all the way through Hotel is, man, that's darn near perfect, man. It's a classic album, and I love it. So, yeah. And just a couple of small misses, maybe on Breakfast, or maybe one or two to their side. But it's Breakfast starts off so strong and ends really good too. Just maybe one or two in the middle. So that's what I got.
All right.
Can I interject real quick? We have
Sure.
four straight sweeps. Sweeps.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Something's got to give.
All right. So let's do the last one here. And this one, this Midwest bracket, I've got Pink Floyd coming back with their iconic double album, The Wall, a number 7 seed. But I tell you, they're going to have to scale a king-size building if they're going to overcome Led Zeppelin and the famous number 2 seeded album, 4 or Zoso, whatever people like to call it. Doc, you get the first word here, actually.
Yeah, you're an ass. Me going again first. I'm a big Pink Floyd guy, man. What can I tell you? I love The Wall. And if we ever jump into it, I have it very, very high on my list of where I think Floyd albums is. This is right near the top. When you end with where the levee breaks, and when the levee breaks, and you got Black Dog starting, and you got everything else in between, but Led Zeppelin 4 is like in the neighborhood of some of the. I love The Wall, and I don't think there's any filler in it. As much as some people do, I don't. It's still a Pink Floyd album. All of the things, I'll defend it till I'm blue in the face. I love it. But Zepp 4 is just a smidge higher for me, man. It's the one of the rock albums that everyone should have. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah. Randy?
Well, there was another album in this bracket I said was a perfect rock album, and I think this album is a perfect rock album too, and that is Led Zeppelin 4. That first side it's hard to get better than that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm going Led Zeppelin 4.
Okay. Rich?
Yeah, this is fairly easy for me. Led Zeppelin 4 for sure. I agree with Randy. That side 1 gets it off to a hell of a start. And I like side 2, except for 4 Sticks. I'm giving it 1 flaw, but it moves on. It's over The Wall. The Wall, I know Doc is a bigger Pink Floyd fan than I am. It does have a little filler for me. Not much, but more than Zepp 4. So I'm going with Led Zeppelin 4.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, Zeppelin 4 is just about as perfect as it gets for the classic rock genre. Yeah, I mean, again, I've gained a lot of appreciation for The Wall in the last couple of years. I like everything about The Wall. I know Doc and I kind of agreed on that. Like, I don't see a lot of filler. I mean, like I said last week, I like the trial bit. I like bring the boys back home. I like all of it. It all works for me. But Zeppelin 4, it's concise. it works as an album. It's got a feel to it. The cover is perfect. Like everything about it, it's a classic rock album. So I'm gonna go with Zeppelin.
Yeah, it's another sweep, guys. I mean, everybody in this region is going to sweep. I'm taking Led Zeppelin as well.
Wow,
and
5 straight.
Pink Floyd The Wall's probably my fourth favorite Pink Floyd album. It's still very solid to me. I love the concept behind it and how it just really is tight knitly put together with a particular theme. I enjoy all that. But even just like one of my favorite songs of all time is When the Levee Breaks, and just the drumming on that is just incredible. So I'm going with Zepp 4 here as well. So that's a clean sweep there as well. Wow, that bracket's going to be brutal when we have to go to Sweet 16 on that. So,
Yeah.
All right. So let's take go over to the other side in the East, and we're going to be covering the number 1 seeded Rumours, who put a halt to Rush's momentum last week. And they got to do battle with the Beatle killing number 8 seed Bat Out of Hell from Meatloaf. So first on deck is me. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, I gave Bat Out of Hell a little bit of love last week, comparatively. But it's a better album than I would have given it credit for 4 or 5 years ago, but it's nowhere near where Rumours is in my mind. Rumours is probably a top 3 album for me, rotating around. It doesn't go any lower than that. So I got Rumours moving on. Doc?
Yeah, I'm a big Meatloaf guy, and I think that album just rocks. That first album, I think it's awesome. It's the way it's put together, the way it's produced. There's a whole bunch of really good things about it. Great, sold 45 million records for a reason. A lot of people, it's appealing.
Yep.
Suppose Rumours, man. Rumours is a little bit more appealing if you want the truth. So that's I wrote that one down pretty quick, man. Rumours was taking this one no matter which way this unfolded. So
right,
even if it was Rush, it's still, there was still go through. So
all right, Randy.
Well, you got Jim Steinman writing the songs, and you got Meatloaf with that voice. But 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But the Cinderella story ends, and I'm picking Rumours.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, this is what they call an old-fashioned blowout. I'm taking Rumours. Enough said.
Sam, you want to throw something in there?
Whenever Mom made Meatloaf as a kid, I was never thrilled. That's kind of the case that now I hear him on the radio. It's like, oh, okay, there's that, but I don't need 8 minutes of Meatloaf singing "I'll Love You to the End of Time." But yeah, Rumours, easy pick. I mean, again, Never Going Back Again is probably a top 50 song of all time for me, and that in itself will put it above a really, really solid album. So yeah, Rumours for the 6th sweep. 7th sweep
in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, actually, in this whole bracket, all the matchups are they were all the higher seeds. So this is just like right across the board. So we're going to move down to that 4 or 5 matchup. I got Simon and Garfunkel with Bridge Over Troubled Water. It has to go up against Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin, that monumental double album offering. So Sam, you're going to get the first thoughts on this one.
Yeah, this is again, one of those albums, one of those matchups where it wasn't a big, there wasn't a lot of thought behind it for me. Double albums have never fully been my bag, and Physical Graffiti is no exception. I know that, I think Randy mentioned last week you get 2 albums of Zeppelin, which is fine. It's great. I'm not a mega Zeppelin fan. Like, I probably wouldn't even put them in my top 10 for favorite rock bands, but Bridge Over Troubled Water, to me, I mean, everything is great, right down to the cover of the Everly Brothers. I love again, the Baby Driver and the title track, all that stuff is just so good. And what a swan song for Simon and Garfunkel. So yeah, Bridge Over Troubled Water, again, easy peasy on my end.
All right, for me, if this were like a matchup of songwriters, I would definitely be giving the edge to Simon and Garfunkel, and especially Paul Simon. I think he's this incredible songwriter. But I like Physical Graffiti just a little bit more. That's I tend to lean toward that way a little bit more of the rock side versus the singer songwriter. There are singer songwriters that I absolutely adore, but not a whole lot of them. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Physical Graffiti, getting my vote here. Just too many great tunes, and there's so many of them. So, Doc.
Yeah, this was probably the second toughest one, the tougher ones here for me, because you're right. There's a flow, right? And I talked about it before. It's either this or this, and then which way do I go? They're both awesome albums, man. And Bridge Over Troubled Water is definitely recognized that way, and so is Physical for a lot of different reasons. And as much as I didn't give a lot of love to Physical last week, I'm going to give it back to it this week, man. So I'm here for this one.
Okay. All right. Randy.
This was the toughest one actually for me. I've gone back and forth. Physical Graffiti is my second favorite Zeppelin album against probably my favorite Simon and Garfunkel album. And I'm actually changing what I actually wrote down. I'm picking Physical Graffiti.
Oh man.
Oh, there we go.
Doc, what did you take? I'm sorry.
Physical.
He took
All right, so it's over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going Bridge Over Troubled Water actually, because that's more my style. I don't like the side 4, I guess, of Physical Graffiti. I think it's a little bloated. It's like my 5th favorite Zeppelin album, and Bridge Over Troubled Water is pristine. So I have to go with Ever in a Losing Cause.
Okay, that's all right. Everybody's got to vote their conscience.
Yeah.
That's my first album that's my first matchup that I lost. Everything else I've won.
Wow. Good job.
Yep.
All right, let's do the bottom half of the East here. We've got Stevie Wonder and his great double album Songs in the Key of Life at number 3 seed. He had a little trouble with Bob Seger, but now faces a much tougher matchup against Billy Joel at number 6 seed, and his hit-filled album The Stranger. He managed to take down Neil Young's After the Gold Rush just a week before. So first on deck is going to be Rich.
Yeah, you would think you would know where I'm going with this, but I'm not. I'm going with Songs in the Key of Life. I think it's a better album. As much as I like The Stranger, all the hits, which I do love, but I have to give Stevie some love here. I mean, he got screwed one other time, I think, on our didn't Intervisions get beat.
Intervisions.
Intervision got beat.
But this has I Wish and Isn't She Lovely and Sir Duke and As, which is a really cool song. I have to go with Stevie Wonder here. That soul jazzy kind of R&B thing going on. He was the master, and he won like 3 out of 4 Grammys for Album of the Year. So I'm taking my man Stevie.
Okay, Sam.
Yeah, this was a little bit more difficult out of all of them, but again, it wasn't much for me to pick Stevie Wonder. Again, I have a connection with this album. I got to see it live in 2016 with some buddies in college and my cousin. Again, I gained a new appreciation for The Stranger with my video with Rich, and appreciated those couple of deep cuts on that album. There's not many deep cuts on that album, but Songs in the Key of Life. If the two of them are in front of me on the table, I'm going to pick up Stevie Wonder and listen to that, even though it's twice the album. And it is a double album, but Rich named off some of the hits, and again, a lot of the deeper cuts, the fact that Stevie's playing most of the instruments, it's just, Songs in the Key of Life for me, for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with both of you guys. I mean, I own everything for Stevie from that 1970 when he signed, sealed, deliver, all the way up through, like Talking Book, Intervisions, Music of the Mind, and Songs in the Key of Life. I mean, that stretch of albums is just so solid that I enjoyed all that work during that time. I'm giving Stevie the edge here as well. The songwriting's good. The sound's good. Stevie's at the top of his game. I do like Billy Joel's The Stranger. I do, but it's just not to that level where Stevie is. So what do you think, Doc?
I think you're wrong.
Not the first time.
I think you're right. Listen, I love Stevie's. It's a classic. It's a fantastic album, and I think it's peak Stevie. But I think Stranger's peak Billy Joel, man, and I think peak Billy Joel appeals to me a little bit more than peak Stevie. So, and I think there's no. The Stranger's a classic. I'm kind of surprised the way it unfolded, if you want the truth, but I think the Stranger was this is where I was going with this one, man. Billy was where I was going.
Okay. Randy?
Well, The Stranger beat my favorite Neil Young album. But I do love, that's my favorite Billy Joel album, but maybe I do have a grudge because I'm going to go with Stevie and Songs of the Key of Life. It's just probably my favorite Stevie Wonder album, and it's got, like Rich named off the hits. It's hard to beat that.
All right. We'll move down to the very bottom here. The number 2 seeded London Calling from The Clash takes on pitting themselves really against the Cars, basically not trying to get run over, I suppose, is a nice way to put something. Cars, which was a number 7 seed, self-titled masterpiece. Really 2 contrasting musical genres and styles. And this was my toughest one that I had to even talk about. But Randy, you get the first word here, bud.
Well, I do love the Cars debut. It had, every song was played on the radio almost. But London Calling was the Clash pushed punk in a new direction. They discovered, they used ska in a couple earlier, but this is where they really found themselves, I thought, and it's one of the best double albums ever, as I like every song on there, and I'm picking London Calling.
Okay, Rich.
I'm going the other way. I'm going with the Cars. It meant a lot to me when it came out, because I was pretty straight-laced, classic rock, singer-songwriter, and this gave a little new wavy kind of music that I wasn't used to hearing, and it was power pop, catchy, and every song was great. So I'm going with, I like their first couple of albums, but this is their best album for me, the debut.
All right, so we got splitsies again. Sam?
This was a tough one because neither one are really my style. But it came down to familiarity and what I would probably lean toward if I'm just picking one or the other. And so I'm picking the Cars as well. Again, I'm not a big new wave guy. I'm not a huge punk guy, but what's funny is I probably prefer punk a little bit more to new wave. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those great debut albums. The songs are all good. Even though it's not my style, I can fully appreciate, what it was and what it is. So the Cars for me.
All right. My turn. I'm gonna keep us in Splitsville here, guys, because I'm gonna take the number 2 seed London Calling. I just feel like it's I like it just as much as the Cars debut, and so I'm weighing it a little bit more by saying I think that London Calling is a slightly more important album, for music. So I'm gonna go ahead and give that my vote and put all the pressure on Doc here.
Third time, Doc.
That must be right. That's gotta be the third time. Man, I don't know how I get these ones, man. Yeah, this is tough, man. Yeah, because one is really it's changing the way a direction of music, right? That really brings it to the forefront, especially London Calling, the Clash. This is it's in your face now where the genre is going. And to Rich's point, the new wave pop synth sound that's never really been experienced before in the late 70s here, as you're popping in here, it's also a different sound. And it's where I lean. So I've been leaning more towards, shall we say, Sam and Rich's neighborhood than I am Brian's and Randy. So I'm going with the Car.
Wow.
So there's the upset. Ooh. All right. So there's another upset, 7 over a 2. Let's take a trip down south, guys. We're going to head off to Jersey, I suppose, first, and the Boston's classic Born to Run, who has that number 1 seed with his gritty vocals going up against Boston's self-titled debut. It's really the battle of all killer, no filler, I suppose. Boston had a slight upset against Fleetwood Mac's self-titled Knicks/Buckingham number 9 seed last week. So, Doc, you get to talk first on this one.
Yeah, thanks a lot again, Hank.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
When you take a step back and you look at these two albums, this is really close, man, in a lot of senses. This is Born to Run is iconic, and it's we talked about it, but I think we all had a lot of love for it at one level or another anyway last week, and probably in our lives. And same with Boston. That Boston album is. I love using the words, man. That Boston album is smoking, man, literally. So, you can't go wrong with either. But there's some sort of nostalgia and meaning behind the Born to Run album that just means just a tad more to me personally. So I'm gonna throw Bruce in, and you start with the Thunder, you end with the Jungle. That's it. That's a tough one for me to beat. So.
All right, Randy, what do you think?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because my screen says my bandwidth is low, whatever that means. But Born to Run is one of my all-time favorite albums, and so it's going to be no contest on this, even though I do love that Boston album and every song was played on the radio. But Born to Run was when Bruce really found himself, I thought, and I still think it's his best album, although I could pick Darkness on the Edge of Town sometimes, but yeah, I'm going Born to Run.
Okay. Rich?
Well, from the Thunder to the Jungle, as Doc said. I'm taking the Springsteen album. I mean, it's in my top 5 of all time. So as much as I love the Boston album and I vouch for it as a great album, a great debut album, I have to take the boss on this one.
All right. Sam?
Let's make it a sweep. Yeah. Bruce Springsteen for me. Solid album. It gets to the point. It's, it runs hard the whole time. It's, full of adrenaline. It's Bruce at his most energetic. Clarence Clemens is all over the record. I love his saxophone playing. Again, I love 10th Avenue. It's just perfect to me. I love that that whole line about the big man joining the band. That's just one of my favorite lines ever. And in concert, how he would build up to that part is just so cool. So yeah, again, great tracks on the Boston album, great production, but Springsteen, I like that little bit of grit to my records.
Yep.
All right. Well, with all this pressure on me, I'm not sure where I'm going to go. But no, it's a sweep, guys. It's 5-0 for the boss here. It's all. That's like I said. It's all killer, no filler on that album. Like, and I said before, 3 of my top 5 Springsteen songs are on here. So it's hard to go against this album at all. Just a little bit of love for Boston, just not enough. So we'll move on down to the next matchup, but Boss is going to end up having to do battle with one of these guys. Number 4 seeded Blood on the Tracks from Bob Dylan, or he'll have to go against that rock and roll classic offering from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and his gem Damn the Torpedoes, which was sitting at the number 5 seed. I'm going first on this one, and I do like Damn the Torpedoes. It's my second favorite Tom Petty album. But I absolutely love Bob Dylan, and this may be my 3rd favorite Bob Dylan album, but I like his material so much that, his 5th favorite might still beat the Damn the Torpedoes. That's just where I'm at. So I'm going to take Blood on the Tracks. So Doc?
Yeah, I mean, everything you said there about Blood on the Tracks is bang on, Brian. This is peak Dylan. Probably might be my favorite Dylan. It's right in there. But with that in mind, I'm taking Damn the Torpedoes.
Oh. Curveball.
Don't hold back.
All right. Next up is, where are we at here? Randy.
Well, it's my favorite Tom Petty album against my favorite Bob Dylan album. And actually, the Bob Dylan album, along with the Springsteen album, are at 2 of my top 5 albums of all time. It looks like they're going to be meeting in the next round because I'm picking Blood on the Tracks to go.
Okay.
It's just the perfect breakup album. Yeah, all the songs on there.
All right, Rich.
Well, I'm going to take the coward's way out and let Sam have the deciding vote because I'm taking Damn the Torpedoes as well. As much as I love Blood on the Tracks, and it is a near perfect album for me, not to the level of the 60s Dylan of what I like the best, but I can't go against Tom Petty because this is his best album with the Heartbreakers for me. Refugee, Here Comes My Girl. Even the Losers, Shadow of a Doubt, which is kind of an underrated tune, Don't Do Me Like That, and I love Louisiana Rain as well. So I'm taking Damn the Torpedoes.
All right. Sam, you're on the hot seat, bro.
You know how I feel about both of these people. Tom Petty is my favorite American band and the Heartbreakers. Bob Dylan's probably my favorite American songwriter. It's tough. And again, like even the Losers, I mean, that's a song that just it gets me every time. Just how it sounds. It's a perfect pop rock song. And Louisiana Rain is just Petty's songwriting. You know, it's Petty's matured on this third album compared to that first album. And then you have the Divorce album by Bob Dylan blowing the tracks, which, you know, as you know, is in my top 3 favorite albums of all time. So I have to unfortunately knock my man Petty down and have Bob continue onward. So
all right, Blood on the Tracks moves forward with a tight 3-2 margin, but still moving forward. Bottom half of the South bracket division is David Bowie, his glam rock masterpiece, and Ziggy Stardust, holding firmly at that number 3 spot. After taking down the Stones last week, he's going to go up against our bigger upset from the South, the number 11 seeded My Aim Is True by Elvis Costello, who nudged out Joni Mitchell. I don't know who was to blame for that. But that's your matchup. You got David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust versus Elvis Costello. And Sam, you get the first word here.
Yeah, I'm probably the worst person to have the first word here because neither of these albums are big in my world. Not saying that they're not good. I like Costello. I'm learning more about Costello, and you know, I've never really called myself a Bowie fan. Just something about him doesn't quite click with me. It might come later in life. I don't know. But looking at the 2 albums and having heard the records and spent time with them just at different times, I'm going to lean towards Ziggy on this one, which is crazy for me because I voted against the upset last week for Some Girls to beat Ziggy. So Ziggy is not high on my collection, but it does have a good sound to it. It's kind of got a muddy sound to it, and yeah, I just got to go with it. Even though I do love the power pop and punk sensibilities of Elvis.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Sam here. I'm gonna take David Bowie. I think the album's fantastic. I feel like there's no filler on here. I love the energy of the album, the personal songs that are on there as well. The second side to me is just near as perfect as you could possibly be. I am a fan of Elvis Costello. That's why I voted for him last week to the detriment of my email. But I'm going to go with David Bowie and move on down the Doc. So, Doc, what do you think?
Oh, I've got no problem putting Elvis Costello out of his misery on this one. So, yeah, it's Ziggy. This is peak Bowie. I think this is top tier albums of all time for me, man. So yeah, this was an easy one. So Ziggy's damn near perfect.
Okay, Randy.
Well, this one, I guess it doesn't really matter now, but this was a weird kind of matchup for me, as it's my 4th favorite Bowie album against my 4th favorite Elvis Costello album. But the Angels Want to Wear My Red Shoes, one of my all-time favorite songs. So I would go with My Aim Is True, even though it's in a losing cause.
It's all right. You got to do it. Okay,
yeah.
Rich.
I almost went that direction too, because I really like My Aim Is True. It's my favorite Elvis Costello album by quite a bit, but Ziggy's my favorite Bowie album. So, and I think it's just a landmark glam rock masterpiece. Mick Ronson on guitar accompaniment. So I have to go. I have to go with my heart and take Ziggy Stardust. I think it's a better album.
Okay. All right. Finally, guys, the last matchup tonight in the South and overall. In a surprisingly close matchup last week, Pink Floyd and the number 2 seeded Wish You Were Here barely survived to tell the tale and now must engage in a thriller, again with a pun, as they do battle with the number 7 seeded Can't Buy a Thrill from the jazz fusion rock band Steely Dan. This is their earlier work. Rich, you do get first word here. This would be interesting.
Yeah, well, I have to be truthful again. I as much as I like Can't Buy a Thrill, Wish You Were Here is a better album. It's a better listen all the way through, even with the long passages and a lot of stuff with the wailing in the background of the female singer and stuff. I just think it works as an album, and the song itself, the title track "Wish You Were Here," is definitely in my top 10 songs of all time. So that puts it over the edge. And as much as I like that debut by Steely, I have to go with Pink Floyd here.
Okay. All right, Sam.
Yeah, my words about Aja come back into play about Steely Dan, so I'm gonna go with "Wish You Were Here" as well. Um, again, the title track is one early guitar song for me as a 13, 14-year-old boy, playing that acoustic guitar. But then songs like "Shine On" and "Have a Cigar." I like that song, even though it's not a regular member of Pink Floyd singing it. I do like it, and yeah, they're gonna beat out Gilmore and Waters and the fellas.
Yeah. All right.
By that I mean Fagan and Becker. That's what I mean.
Right. Oh yeah.
There you go.
So
They beat
Well,
themselves.
peanut gallery.
All right, I'm going with "Wish You Were Here," guys. I "Wish You Were Here" is my second favorite song of all time, and this is my favorite Pink Floyd album of all time. "Can't Buy a Thrill" I do like very much. It's maybe third in my Steely Dan favorite album, so that makes this a landslide for me. So I'm taking "Wish You Were Here" as well. What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, this was pretty easy. It's "Wish You Were Here." That's where the vote's going for me. Yeah, "Can't Buy a Thrill's" great. There's some great songs on it and stuff like that. And I'm happy I made it to this part, but I think the production and the way Floyd's got a sound, man, and I love Floyd. So yeah, this is one of those ones where there's no filler in there for me either on this one, man. So
All right, Randy, last word here.
Well, I didn't pick "Can't Buy a Thrill" last round, and although if Katie Lied was on here, it might be a little bit closer. But like I said before, "Wish You Were Here" is my favorite Pink Floyd album as well, and it's hard to get anything better than that title track, and so I'm picking it as well.
All right,
Another sweep.
so that's a sweep there. All right, we had quite a few sweeps. Rich, am I correct in saying we had 6, 7, 8 sweeps?
I lost count, but I know we had
we have
5 in a
9.
row. 9. We had 6 in a row at one point.
Yeah,
right?
6 in a row. You're right. It's 9. I'm sorry. Yeah,
9.
9.
Yeah.
That's
9 sweeps.
9 out of 16, right?
Yeah. That Midwest bracket, guys, next week is going to be absolutely brutal. Everybody there won 5-0.
And I only have one pick that wasn't picked, so that's
really good, Sam.
Yeah, it was 15-1.
Awesome.
2, 3, 4. I'm not losing it on 4.
Yeah, I missed quite a few this time, but I got to vote how I want to vote. So,
Yeah.
what you got to do. But I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight. This went a little bit quicker than our last couple, but it should go quicker as we move forward, and it'll go quicker still once we do the round of 16 next week. I want to thank everyone who's watching out there. Make sure you like, sub, comment down below. Please leave your winners down below. I really would appreciate that. I don't mind you putting down albums that you thought we left off the list. You understand why you can't put everybody on the list. I mean, the 70s is just packed with great albums, and that you can make a field of 256 and you wouldn't make everybody happy. So
That's true.
it's just the way it is. But really appreciate it. Make sure you check out these guys' channels. I'm going to put links to them down below, except for Doc. Doc's, we're really going to harp on him to start getting a YouTube channel so he can put up his original comment of his anime collection or something. I don't know what's going on, but whatever you do in your garage, Doc, we're not judging or anything. So, but thanks everybody for joining us, and you guys take care. We'll catch you next one. Bye-bye.
Later.